All right, here we go. What is up? How's everybody doing? We are live right now on Facebook and on YouTube. And I just wanted to do a vlog. I'm back home, I'm back in the States, and I want to kind of catch everybody up on what's been going on in my world the last couple of weeks and talk about some things that are going on in the world as a whole and what you might expect regarding. We're going to talk about Israel and Iran, the mess that's going on in the Middle East, what I see happening from here. We're going to talk a little bit about the economy, and we're also going to talk about how you might protect yourself from the shitstorm that's coming in the economy. And it's not just going to be in the United States. This is going to be a worldwide. This is going to be felt worldwide. So I'm also going to catch everybody up on my polygyny journey and kind of share with you where I'm at. My girl is back in the Netherlands. I'm going to kind of tell you everything that's going on there. So do me a favor, though, before we jump into this, if you can see me and hear me okay, drop a comment, say hello, hey, whatever. Just let me know that you can see and hear me, that I'm coming through okay, because I'm kind of doing something different than I've ever done before. I'm using my desktop along with my phone simultaneously. And also, if it's your first time watching one of these, or if you've never let me know where you're watching from, let me know. I'm curious to see where you're coming in from, and I may be able to connect you with some other people in your area that are like-minded. So first, I want to kind of just talk about the Costa Rica trip. I got back just a few days ago. I think it was Saturday night. We were there for almost a month, 3.5 weeks. Had a great time. What's up, Mike Harris? How are you? See you on here. And Anna Marie, how are you? And yeah, it was great. I went down there partially just to get away, get a change of pace. Thank you for that, Mike. Thank you for that comment. But also, I was looking at opportunities down there because the way things are going in this country, I'm not loving it. There's a lot of division. There's this open border thing. Things are just getting weird in the United States, and they're getting weird quick. And I know there's some things that God told me that were going to happen in the world and in this country, and I don't want to just sit around and do nothing. Like I don't want to have regret later to think, oh man, I should have done this. I wish I would have thought of that. So I don't want to be complacent. And Costa Rica is a place that's been on my radar for a long time. I've been to several times. It's been on my radar as far as a possible option of moving there because it's a great quality of life. I really like the Pura Vida lifestyle. It's very laid back. It's freedom in a way that you can't even imagine if you're from the States. There's no lights, for example. There's no red lights. You figure it out at the intersection. You can ride a horse down a public beach. That horse can take a shit on the beach and no cop's going to come along and yell at you. Or it's very free in many respects. And but it's also, and there's a lot of Westerners there. It's actually more expats in Costa Rica than any other country in the world, surprisingly. So there's a lot of Americans, Canadians, Germans, French. There's a lot of people that speak English, and it's safe, and but it's also gotten pretty expensive if you're going to live on the coast. So, but I was there, thinking like, okay, well, let me look and see if there's any opportunities. Sometimes I need to kind of take a step and see if God meets me, like versus just praying. And it's hard for me to discern sometimes if God is in it. So, for example, there was a girl I was talking to last year. I flew overseas to meet her, and God didn't meet me. He didn't say yes. But up until then, I was thinking maybe this is it. And so sometimes for me, I need to actually take a step and then jiggle the doorknob is what the way I like to refer to it is. A lot of times when you're walking by the Spirit, you're just jiggling doorknobs. You're trying the door to see if it opens. I don't pray about testing the door. I'll take a step and see if God meets me. So I went down there to Costa Rica and I was looking at, potential business opportunities. Maybe we looked at some land, which is further inland because land's a lot cheaper than it is on the coast. And looked at maybe buying a house and doing Airbnb. We were considering a couple different things, and I can't say I feel necessarily led to do any of them, but I did an 86-hour water fast my last, 80 hours in Costa Rica. And I was praying about these things because I have a few different ideas in front of me, a few different options of what to do with my time and energy and how I might make money and also how I might impact the kingdom. So I was praying about those things, and I can't do more than one. A lot of those things are going to require, one. If I live in Costa Rica, for example, I won't be able to do the thing that I have in mind to do here. So really, just kind of considering all these different things and trying to see what God is going to do in this next season of my life. When I retired or resigned from the nonprofit last year, I was just like, I was completely clueless. I mean, it came out of left field, kind of caught me off guard. I thought that was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I thought that was my, contribution to the kingdom. And so, yeah, I mean, I've just kind of been on a journey trying to figure it out ever since. So, I got the coaching program, the men's coaching program, and that's going pretty good. It's small, but I'm enjoying it. I really want to kind of get the guys the results. I want to really help them find their wives, so I can prove to myself that I can be successful with this. So, but they are having some success. One of the guys in particular had been talking to multiple girls, and this is a guy that believes in polygyny. So that's not an easy, that's not an easy thing easy goal to reach. So we have had some success, but I also wonder sometimes if there's not something else. Just one of the things that I've considered recently is potentially buying some land somewhere in a more rural area and start to get it set up for other people to come. So what I would probably do if I did that is I would I would put a trailer on it. I would live in that trailer temporarily, and I would try to turn it into like a private campground. So it'd be pretty basic in the beginning, but you could put it on Airbnb. You could put it on Hip Camp. I think is another site where people can come and they can just camp out on your property and pay you $30 a night or whatever in a tent, and you don't really need that many amenities. So I thought about that because I think about like, if I do want to bug out, like let's say this stuff just keeps getting weirder in the United States, right? Which is exactly what I think is going to happen. I think the Bible supports that too, and Jesus talked about birth pains. I think it's going to get weirder, and if I need to bug out to somewhere that's a little bit more rural, I'd like to have that option, and I'd like to be able to provide it to other people that I care about to say, hey, listen, if you need to get out of the city, here's where I'm at. Like bring a tent. I got bathrooms, showers, and an outdoor kitchen. And at least there's something for people to come to like that. Something in that idea resonates with me. I don't know if it's me or if it's God, but yeah, I'm praying about it. So, but overall, the trip to Costa Rica was amazing. We had a blast. Just got to know each other better and better. Me and my girlfriend, she's back in her country, and we're trying to figure out if we're going to get married. But I do think if we do, it's not going to drag out. Both of us are waiting. I know the haters out there in the comments have said, "Oh, you guys are sleeping in close quarters and whatever." Listen, just because you can't wait doesn't mean that I can't. I've been abstinent for basically 18 of the last 24 years, outside of 2 isolated mistakes. It always makes me laugh when I have these haters, these people that I know have whored around, and not that long ago, and people have committed adultery on spouses and were in swingers lifestyles, and they're in my comments, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I've disciplined myself and lived so carefully, and then these people want to pretend like they're the Mother Teresa or something. It's funny to me. So yeah, so we are waiting. We're not doing anything at all now. Got a couple close calls early on, but that's natural for somebody that you're going to be attracted to, right? You should want to rip their pants off. If you don't want to rip their pants off, then that's probably not the person for you. So, but we're not doing anything, and we're really committed to making it to the finish line and saving sex for marriage. Now, look, it could be a polygynous marriage. It very well could be. I don't know. Let's see what God wants to do there. You know, I there's a lot I like about the idea. I think I can accomplish a lot more with more than one woman. I'm also hesitant to have kids if it was just a monogamous marriage because why go back and watch that last episode with Casey Jones. I mean, there's a fascinating clip I shared on my page today where he talks about the benefits, and he's like monogamous women don't even realize how hard they have it. He's like, I feel so sorry for them, and they do because think about you need basically both parents working right now. We need two incomes, so the kids are getting dropped off at daycare, and then they're going to school that's teaching them all kinds of crazy shit, and they're being indoctrinated, and the woman doesn't know whether she's coming or going, and it's like it's very difficult to be, in a monogamous marriage in this day and age. Not that there's anything wrong with monogamy. I think monogamy is great for some people if they really want to. But the thing is just there ain't that many monogamous men out there. Men will tell you, "Oh yeah, I just want you," but then they'll go cheat, or maybe they just can't. The only reason they're saying they don't want it is because they can't do it. But if there's truly what percentage of men are truly monogamous because they want it, not because their wife wants it and they're doing it for them because they actually want it and they actually have options and they choose not to. I'd say that's a pretty small percentage of men, right? But women, I mean, y'all want to die on this hill, and I get it because it isn't a big hill. But you're like, how long have you tried to force men into this monogamy only model that isn't biblical? What for 2,000 years approximately, and they're not doing it that great. I mean, you wonder why they fail at it repeatedly because it's not biblical. So, but you all won't get off of it. The church won't get off of it. You're like, oh no, this is what it is, and it's obvious they can't do it. It's obvious that the majority of men can't do it. When you see that 30% of the men on dating apps are married right now, I mean, that should tell you something, right? Like, when you force men to do this through legal mandates and societal pressure, all it creates is degeneracy. You just got a bunch of dudes that are out there sneaking around, creating a cesspool, and it's just gross. So, like, this is why I'm so passionate about this subject. It's like, and I feel like I'm misunderstood on it. So I need to. Sometimes I know I come off like an ass. I come off cocky and arrogant and the reason it's not that I don't care about women at all. I love women. I was raised by a single mom. Every girl that I've ever dated will tell you that I've treated her really good. I mean, I'm great friends with all my exes. I just know that no one would ever go through what I went through. They'll never do it. And I don't want women to have to be put in the position where they have to go out and fornicate. And I don't say they have to, but they do. They are. Because it's a buyer's market right now. Men are not getting married. The marriage rate's the lowest it's ever been. 5 out of every 1,000 people getting married every year. It's never been this low. Why? Because men are just they don't want it anymore. Because the prescriptive monogamy is not biblical, so they're just not signing up for it. And then what happens is women get put in the position where they're like they don't want to be alone for the rest of their life. They don't want to be childless for the rest of their life. So they go out and they just have sex, and it just creates a mess. So it's like, I know people aren't going to go through what I went through. They're not. And I'm trying to get the word out about this because not just for all the practical reasons, but because I know biblically that I'm on the right side of this. Like I have great discernment. I know that I'm on the right side. I love Jesus. My life is surrendered to him so much so that I've been abstinent for, basically 18 of the last 24 years, really like 19, actually. It's only 5 years that I was sexually active. So I'm super committed to Jesus. I'm super committed to God. And I know that I'm on the right side of this. So tomorrow day, I have on Glenn Braunstein. He's the author of a book called The Biblical Case for Polygamy, the Biblical Text. I'm reading it. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. And the evidence for polygyny, that it's biblical and it's righteous, is overwhelming. It's so big. Like if anybody actually really studied this, it would be impossible for them to ever say it was a sin, much less that it just wouldn't be practical to do it. This is something really interesting I read there, and I made a short reel about it. If people like to say, oh, it was just a select few people did it, the rich people in the Bible. Like, no, listen, this was so prevalent in Israel. I want you to think about this. The Bible tells us that the Israelites went into Egypt with 70 people. 430 years later, they came out of Egypt with over 2 million. How do you go from 70 to 2 million unless it's polygyny is the prominent practice? You couldn't under monogamy only. You couldn't even come close. You couldn't even do 500,000 from 70 in just 430 years. Okay, so it was very prevalent. Now, and these were God's people, the Israelites. And the fact that God never one time said anything negative to them about polygyny, never once. In fact, he gave it to certain men. He even commanded it in certain situations. If your brother died, you had to marry the widow and give her a baby. If you seduced a virgin, you have to marry her. It didn't say if you weren't married. No, you have to man up. So like polygyny is righteous. You know, you could your pastor has misinformed you. He's misled you. Not intentionally, I don't believe, but he has. Okay, if that's what he's told you. So you need to do the research for yourself. You need to see if what I'm saying is right. And so I have this guy on the podcast tomorrow, Van Bronstein. I'm really looking forward to talking to him. You know, one of the quotes in the Bible that he had in his book basically said, there's been no other more destructive lie in the history of humankind except for the original, you know, the serpent in the garden. That's the only one that's been more destructive than this lie. And I honestly agree with him. I'm not even exaggerating. I agree that is the truth. Knowing, like, once you see it and once you realize all the devastation and all the impact, the negative impact that it's having on society, I really believe that's true. I don't think there's been any other false doctrine that's been worse for the world than this monogamy only bullshit. Again, you know, what monogamy only does is it scares men and they don't marry. They don't marry till later in life, if at all, right? So what they do is they wait, and while they wait, they fornicate. They just go out and sleep around while they wait for this one unicorn to come along. Versus just making a pragmatic decision, marrying the girl. Like, I made a lot of videos about this. I don't really need to get into all the reasons why, you know, but America's not going to make it if we continue like this, you know, as far as like all the fatherless homes. 1 in 3 children in fatherless homes right now, and that number will double by 2030. 86% of people that are incarcerated come from fatherless homes. So think about that. You know, one third of the children are in fatherless homes, yet 8.5 out of 10 of people in jail are from fatherless homes. That's huge. And I know every single mom out there hates me talking about the statistics for fatherless homes, but wouldn't you want to know? I mean, y'all sometimes confuse me. It's like you'd rather hear a lie that doesn't hurt your feelings versus hear an uncomfortable truth. Me personally, I'd want to know the truth, even if it hurts, because then I could do something with it and I can make some changes. Y'all like, no, like you just rather be lied to and feel good about it. Like, it doesn't make sense. Wouldn't you want to know the truth? If the truth is the thing that's going to help you? So like, yeah, I know I don't always say it in the right way, but I'm working on it. So again, do me a favor, drop a comment, say hello. Let me know you can see and hear me if you're just tuning in. If it's your first time watching, drop a where you're located at. Drop your current city. See some people here. I'm going to go through the comments and take a look. I'm looking at YouTube here. I see Misunderstood. I see Kevin Hawthorne from Lakeland, Florida. What's up, Kevin? Robert Johnson from San Antonio. Thank you for that. He said, fight the good fight. Continue to press toward the mark of the high calling of Yahweh and Jesus Christ. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that, Robert. So, let's see if there's any more comments. Oh, Lowe's Low Flyer, Oklahoma City. What's up? How's it going? Thank you for that. So, I want to talk a little bit about. Well, tune into the podcast tomorrow. I didn't put the link here, but it's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Should be a great conversation. If you really want to research this topic, pick up that book for yourself. Or, you know, if you want to start with something small, go to BereanPatriot.com and search for polygamy. Is polygamy biblical? I think it's called. And fascinating article. It's not long. And I challenge anybody to try and shoot holes in it. I don't think you'll be able to. So recently I had Justin Waller send me a friend request. So if y'all don't know who Justin Waller is, he's basically like Andrew Tate's right-hand man. He's kind of blowing up on social media a little bit right now. And I did a reaction video to something that he put out, or I think it was like some podcast or something he was on, and he must have seen it, and he friend requested me. He joined the Biblical Families Facebook group. He joined our Unplugged Christian Alphas Facebook group, and I've communicated with him a couple times now on Facebook, and it's cool because the guy's got a huge platform. I think he's already in a plural marriage. He doesn't actually tell people exactly how many wives he has, but he's kind of alluded to it. And this is a guy that grew up in the Bible Belt, and he talked about how this was something that he was extremely ashamed of when he was young, because he's like, he thought he was broken, and he felt like, why can't I just be monogamous? And I really am excited that he connected with me, because if I can get this message into the hands of someone like him, and then maybe eventually even Andrew Tate, I just think about the good that it can do for the world. I think guys like Andrew Tate, a lot of times they convert to Islam because Christianity seems like so pussified, and the fact that even polygyny, or the removal of polygyny, of the possibility of polygyny, kind of castrates Christianity on some level. It kind of cuts the balls off of it. And this is a way to restore some of the masculinity, I believe. I'm not saying it's the only way, but it definitely is one of the ways that we could restore some of the masculinity to Christianity. So actually, do me a favor, if you're the praying person, pray that this message gets to Andrew Tate, because if he was to get this message and really understand it in the way that I do, and he could get this out to the world, and maybe he would convert to Christianity. I prayed for his salvation several times, because of the influence that he has and what it would do for the kingdom, because he could lead a lot of young men to Christianity. So pray for his salvation. I also told Rich Cooper on my podcast that I would pray for his salvation, and Casey Jones, I told him I'd pray for his salvation. And these are guys that we want on our team. We want following Jesus and leading other men to follow Jesus. So I want to talk about, and then go back and watch that episode with Casey Jones. I'll tell you, that was probably my favorite podcast that I've ever done up until now. Episode 103. The guy has 6 wives, and that dude is living more of the abundant life that Jesus promised to give us than any man I know. And he's an atheist. I mean, but that tells you something. That's how abundant that man's life is. Go watch that. The dude's got it figured out. I mean, he's a smart guy. I wish he was a Christian, and I'm praying for that. But he's living in a very abundant life. And I want you to go watch that episode and tell me what you think. So Israel and Iran. Okay, so some of y'all probably heard me talk about this before. 24 years ago, when I became a Christian, I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. Okay, I didn't know God. I didn't think about God. I didn't know Jesus. The most I thought when I saw somebody praying was, I wonder if anyone's listening. That was about all I ever kind of thought. That's the only time I ever thought about God. Now, when I got baptized in the Spirit, I became very aware that God was real and Jesus was who he said he was. And I prophesied. God told me some things that were going to happen in the future, some world events. The first thing he told me there was going to be a big war in the Middle East involving Israel. Okay, this is 24 years ago now, mind you. He told me that the United States and China were going to go to war with each other. And he told me that the US dollar is going to collapse and cause a global depression. Okay, so when I saw this thing happen in Israel, this attack in, I think it was October or something, I was like, okay, there's number one. Right now, it's now spread where Iran has bombed Israel now, and they retaliated. And I can't say I'm 100% sure I know where this goes, but I know God told me it was a big war. Okay, it wasn't a little skirmish, little battle. It was big war in the Middle East. Okay, so my prediction is that this thing's going to spread. Okay, it's not going to end quickly. It's going to get bigger. Maybe more countries get involved. I don't know if it pulls the U.S. in, and then we go to defend Israel, and then China stands with Iran, and that's what draws us into war with them. He didn't tell me all that. I could see how that would be true, but I do believe that this war is going to get bigger. So what does that mean for us, for you? I wouldn't have my money in the stock market personally, because the stock market's not going to do well in times of war. That combined with the fact that God told me that the dollar was going to collapse, I would put my money in things that would do well when that happens. Things like crypto, precious metals, potentially real estate, but not yet. I think the real estate market is in a huge bubble and it's going to come down. And there'll be a time if you have cash that you can swoop in and probably get properties for pennies on the dollar. So, what I'm doing is basically everything that I told you. I've put some money in crypto. I've invested in precious metals. Um, and I've got a food pantry and a shotgun, and I'll probably get a dog, and I may get a bug out location somewhere a little bit more west. So those are some of the things that I'm doing. But yeah, I would recommend you guys like okay, I've, anybody that listen. I started making videos about precious metals probably a couple years ago. Anybody that listened to me is doing extremely well because back then might have been around 19, $20. It hit almost $30 just the other day. Gold is at an all-time high. Silver is, the highest it's been in several years. And this is just the beginning, guys. It's not too late. Look, if you have some cash, I'm begging you, do not keep large sums of cash in paper money and fiat currency because the ship is going down. They printed too much money. Okay. Something like 60% of the money supply was all printed in the last like 3 years. So anytime you inflate the money supply like that, you got the same amount of goods and services, but a lot more money chasing those same amount of goods and services. So of course there's going to be inflation. That's why when you go to the grocery store, you're paying so much more. I'm not an economist. I mean, shoot, I didn't even graduate high school. I got a GED. But I know basic economics 101 that, you print all that money. Of course you have inflation. It's like, here's the way I just explained it to a friend. If you were at a bar and three hot girls walked in, and there were no other beautiful girls in the bar, those girls would be like very valuable. Let's say the bar's crowded. Now, if 300 girls walked in, they wouldn't be that valuable because there's so many of them. So that's inflation. So what I'm telling you is, look, if you have more than $10,000 in cash, call my guy at Monex. I have a rep at Monex, and he will treat you very well. You can invest in precious metals in a variety of ways. You can have them sent to your house. You can do what me and my girl are considering, where you can actually have 1,000-ounce bar of silver, and Brinks will hold it in a safe for you for like $8 a month, and then every time silver goes up $1, you make $1,000. So you have to protect your wealth. You have to hedge against inflation because if not, the money is already worth 25% less than it was just 4 years ago. Okay, so if you had $100 in the bank in 2020, it's only worth $75 now, just 4 years later. So you got to think look, if you sit on the cash, you're going to lose. You're going to lose it all. And we can't repay the debt. We owe so much money. I forget what the number is. I want to say it's over 30 trillion. But here's our options. It's either repay, which we can't, or print more money. Okay, so when they print more money, it comes out of your money. It comes out of your wallet. They steal it. It's like an invisible tax that they steal out of your wallet. Okay, and shit's just going to keep getting more and more expensive. So you have to do something to protect yourself. If you like a little bit more risk, get crypto. I do think crypto is going to do well with the halving. I think the halving's like today or something. So I think that's going to do well. But if you need some help with precious metals specifically, I'll direct you to my guy. I do get a little referral. He sends me a little bit of silver for referring people, but I've already done this with many people, and they're all doing very well. They're all very much in the black. So now's a great time to get in. And he explained to me why, because it just closed. I forget. There's basically a triple-digit rise coming in the next couple months. So I'm very bullish on gold and silver. That's not the only way to invest. You can, go to a local silver dealer. Maybe you don't have $10,000, or if you even have $2,500, I can send you to my guy. That's their minimum. So if you have 2,500, drop me a message and I'll give you his number or his email, and you can reach out to him. But if you don't have 25, you can go to just a local silver dealer. Most cities have one. And see what they got. I don't buy the Eagles because there's a premium on them. The silver Eagles that are American-made minted coins. Because when it comes time to sell these things, because eventually you're going to need to sell them for the money. all they're going to give you is spot price. Okay, so the spot price right now is like $28 and change, and they might charge you $35 for a silver eagle. So now that silver has to go up $7 just for you to break even. That's not what you want. Okay, so I buy silver at the spot price. So it's either junk silver, so it's like quarters and dimes prior to 1964, or I'll just buy the generic 1 ounce coins and I'll pay maybe $1 over spot or something. So if you buy and hold precious metals, my promise to you is that you will not lose. You will not lose your money. You will only make money, and you will thank me later. So that's one of the ways that you can preserve your wealth. Yeah. Anyway, and so there's certain stocks too. Like I, I wouldn't be in the stock market though, personally. The only stocks that I would be invested in are short stocks that bet against the market, because this banking crisis is not. We're not done with this yet. As the economy sours and continues to go south, you're going to have a lot of people that default on their mortgages and their car payments and all the rest. And right now the interest rates are so high, the banks are taking them on the chin because of the bonds. And again, that's not completely my world, but I can tell you safely that precious metals are the way to go, and I can help you if you need it. All right. So what else? Just look at my notes here real quick. I got a Patreon account. If you guys don't know what Patreon is, it's just a way that people can support creators. You can join it for free. I put the link here in the description, patreon.com/biblical polygyny. Exposing the false doctrine of monogamy only. That's kind of what I feel like the call is on my life right now. So if you want to support me in that, or even if you just want to join at the free level, I'd appreciate it. Sign up. I give people, my patron members, first look at my content. So you get, I'll send my videos to you, the Patreon members, before they come out. And then we also are going to start doing group calls, Q&As and group calls every month. So I also have a coaching program, like I mentioned earlier. If you're out there and you're a man and you're like, look, I believe in biblical polygyny, I just don't know how to find women that believe it or are down with it. That's specifically who I want to coach. What makes me qualified to do that? Well, I've never been broken up with by a girl. I've never been cheated on, and I've had multiple girlfriends at the same time when I was sinning. And if I would have known that I could marry them, I would have done it. But I didn't know about polygyny, so I just kind of did it in the degenerate way, like I mentioned before. But I do know how to. Hold on. I do know how to help men use their masculine energy to. I do know how to help men use their masculine energy to find women, and that's what I'm passionate about, because I do think that there's a lot of women out there that need covering, and the only way that we're going to fix this mess is that the good, godly men have to cover more than one, and that's what I want to help men do. So if you're interested in that, you can DM me. If you're watching this on, depending on where you're watching, if you're on Facebook, send me a messenger message. If you're on YouTube, email me, rob@robbkowalski.com. So ROBBKOWALSKI.com. You can email me and I'll send you my link, where I'll link to an application, and we'll jump on a call and see if it's right for you. So I want to go through the comments. Drop any questions you have. If you have any questions about anything I said, specifically about polygyny, I've definitely been learning a lot, and I feel like I'm definitely more educated on this topic than I've ever been after reading this guy Glenn Bronstein's book, and of course all the other books I've read on it and articles. So if you have any questions, if you have any but, or hey, what about this verse? Feel free to drop it. I'd love to dispel any myths and not rumors, but any myths regarding this topic. Oh, you know what? That's what I wanted to read to you guys. I wanted to read this article about the gold price, and then we'll jump into the questions here. So this is from, it says gold prices, it's livemint.com. Gold prices hit all-time high on strong U.S. inflation figures. Fed rate cut buzz, silver price also climbs a new peak. Okay, it says gold price today climbed to a new lifetime high of $2,412 per ounce while the spot gold price touched a new high of $2,395 per ounce during early morning deals. On account of strong U.S. inflation figures and the U.S. Fed rate cut buzz, the gold rate today climbed to a new peak in the domestic and international markets. COMEX gold price today climbed to a new lifetime high, like I just mentioned, of 24.12, and the spot gold price touched a new high of $2,395 an ounce. Speaking on the reason for the rise in gold and silver prices today, the head of the commodity and currency at the HDFC Securities said gold and silver prices are ascending today as the market is expecting a U.S. Fed rate cut after strong U.S. CPI data released on Wednesday. So basically, gold prices are rising, silver prices are rising, and it's based on this, I'm expecting a cut in the interest rates. I don't really understand how those two correspond to each other, but I do know that we're at the start of what could be a very long bull run. And I do know, again, not just that the writing's on the walls when you go to the grocery store and you see the prices starting to climb everywhere. I know that what God told me. I know that God told me 24 years ago that there's going to be a collapse of the dollar. So, yeah, I'm going to keep ringing the bell and telling everybody, sounding the alarm, letting people know that if you do have cash, prepare. If you don't have cash, you still need to prepare. You need to get yourself out of debt, and you need to lower your cost of living as much as you can, and you need to save and invest as much as you can to prepare for the storm ahead. Most importantly, get close to God, stay close to Him. Discernment is going to be key in the end times. There's going to be so much chaos and delusion and lies. Having discernment, knowing how to hear God's voice, and to be able to detect if it's really God or if it's some BS that's being fed to you by the mainstream media or something else, is going to be crucial. So let me look at the comments real quick. Connie, what's up? Constance Leon Durfinger, how are you? Elizabeth Lambden, I don't know if you're still here. Clara. Okay, let me go through the questions or comments here and see if there's anything. Okay. Heather Marson, she said that's awesome. Shows her you respect her as well. I think you're talking about waiting. Oh, so Heather said, need to grow our own food here. Yes. So I went out and purchased like 200 packs of seeds this past weekend. So we have like seeds for every kind of vegetable, pretty much. I've got a food pantry, probably with almost like a year's worth of food. I got 2 freezers packed full of food, fresh, fruits chopped up, and tons of canned goods and dry goods. So we're in pretty good shape. I went out and bought 5 55-gallon barrels, and I got clean water in them. And what else do I have? I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's mostly what I have. Water and food are going to be the things. And of course, shotgun and bullets. You should have bullets. Again, I sound like a doomsday prophet or whatever, like Chicken Little. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just saying you should prepare, right? Because nothing wrong with preparation. Even if I'm wrong, right? It won't hurt. You can always eat the food. All right, let me look at the comments here on YouTube and see if there's anything. Thank you for that, Revolting Man. He said, y'all hit the thumbs up. Hello, the chat. Thank you for that. There's multiple more watchers than likes. Let's fix that. Yeah, thank you for that. Hey, something really unusual with silver this time might be huge. Yeah. Here's a guy that I'd recommend everybody go check out. His name is Economic Ninja. I just discovered him a couple weeks ago. Really good stuff. Loves the Lord, Christian, but he puts out some good stuff. And he's real big in crypto right now, real big in silver. And then he also invests in real estate, but he's like, not yet. So basically, put your money into things that are going to blow up first, which he thinks it's going to be silver and crypto. And then you sell, and then you flip it into real estate after things come crashing down because people can't make payments and they start giving their houses back to the bank. Okay, I saw this in 2008. I lived through this. I was, I was one of many people that got caught. Okay, so nothing goes up like it does and doesn't come down. The way the housing market went up, I'm sure it's going to come down, and when it does, it's going to come down a lot. So you need to be ready for that. But the way to do that, I believe, is precious metals and silver. I mean, crypto. So yeah, I don't know what's different this time, but what this guy said, low's low, is that when it breaks out, he's like, it's going to break out like crazy. So I think there's a chance that silver could go to $100 an ounce. I really do. Don't hold me to that. This isn't financial advice, as people say on their channels, but I do think that there's a real possibility that could happen. Maybe even higher. So imagine if it did, though. Imagine if you had whatever $10,000 worth of silver and it broke out to $100 an ounce. I mean, you'd be doing pretty good financially, and then you can go out and pay cash for a house. Actually, the house I live in, my uncle purchased with the money that he made off silver. He went out and bought bags of junk silver when it was cheap. When it went up, he sold it and he paid cash for his house, and that's how he did it. So I hope to do the same. What else? I think that's it, guys. All right. Well, that was it. Just kind of wanted to check in. Really, the main thing I wanted to do is I kind of wanted to share my heart with the polygyny stuff, because I feel like sometimes I feel very misunderstood with it. Like um, my heart is only to help. Is to help people, help women, help the world. Um, and again, I have great discernment. So when people start accusing me of playing for the other side, playing for the wrong team, that I'm being influenced by Satan, the enemy, it's not true. I know I love the Lord. I love Jesus. He changed my life. I wouldn't do anything that I didn't think he was okay with. I certainly wouldn't lead people down the wrong path. I certainly wouldn't be teaching something unless I was sure that I was right. Something especially as big as this. So, you don't have to believe me, but I would challenge you to research it for yourself, because most people are just believing what their pastor told them. And he hasn't even researched it. Okay. He's just teaching what somebody told him. So, I mean, I wish I would have studied this sooner, because I've wasted a lot of time believing this false doctrine. And there were good girls in my life that might have married me under this. I believe some of them would have, because I know that they went out and, slept with different guys that cheated on them anyway. And isn't it better just to tell them and say, listen, I love you. I'm never going to cheat on you, and I'm never going to divorce you. That's what I told my girl. Like, how many men can say that? I'll never cheat on you and I'll never divorce you. And I mean it. Right now, look, it might be polygyny. I don't know, but I'm never going to leave you. And I'm never going to divorce you. That's an incredible amount of security to provide to a woman. I think monogamy actually, if anything, makes women more anxious, because you don't know if at some point he's going to find a younger, prettier girl and leave your ass on the side of the road. Like, that's what women have to face. It creates a certain amount of fear, I'd imagine, or anxiety. Like with polygyny, you never have that. That's what God said. You can't get divorced. Divorce isn't allowed, but you can marry more than one as a man. You can. There's no scripture to say you can't. So people say it's sin. I'm like, okay, what give me a scripture reference. There is none. So I did a live on TikTok about this yesterday, and I had I don't know, I had a couple hundred people in there at once, and of course, people are like, "This is crazy." Anyways, my feed cut, the live cut off, and it said for hate speech. So somebody said it was hate speech. I'm like, no, I love people. I love women. I love people. I want to see what is best for them, and this is a false doctrine. There's actually something in the Bible that talks about the Spirit expressly says that in later times people will follow deceiving spirits that forbid people to marry. That sounds odd, doesn't it? Because isn't that what's going on now? We're forbidding people to marry under polygyny with this false monogamy-only doctrine. This is the later times. This deceiving spirit. This is why the enemy fights polygyny so hard, because he knows the power. It would change the freaking world. It would clean up the fatherlessness mess. You'd have women that would be able to finally get married. They wouldn't have to be spending their weekends alone. Go watch that Casey Jones episode. Please watch it. Look how abundant his life is. He's like, life gets so easy because you got everybody's they got 7 people sharing their household expenses. He's like, you got to work like 1 day a week and everything else is yours to save. And you got hobbies and life is really rich, but women just they have to get over that. Oh my God, like men, your husband doesn't belong to you. I'm sorry to say that. I know you probably don't love to hear that. He doesn't. You don't have a right to get jealous of him. The Bible doesn't give you a right to get jealous of your husband. He can get jealous over you, though. Okay, there's a jealousy test in the Old Testament. You can look it up. There's no jealousy test for women to give to their men. So like things are kind of backward right now. They're inverse, and that's why everything's so jacked up. That's why the divorce rate's sky high, and there's rampant fornication and fatherless homes. This monogamy only BS is pagan. It came from the Romans. It did not come from the Bible. Think about it. This is what I said in a video recently. Because it definitely was in the Old Testament. Even your pastor will agree with that. And then people will say, well, that was the Old Testament. Jesus came along and he changed the marriage laws. This is a new covenant. Okay, listen. Again, this was so prevalent in Israel that they went into Egypt with 70 people. They came out with over 2 million 400 years later. Okay, so pretty much everybody was practicing polygyny. So Jesus comes along and he changes the marriage laws. Think about the chaos that would have created. All of a sudden, you would have had to have millions of people that would have had to have gotten divorced. And all those women back then would have been forced into prostitution because that was all they could do if they weren't married. And then all those kids would have been ripped away from their fathers. You actually think Jesus would do that? Don't be an idiot. Of course not. So you just got to use your brain on this one. You got to just use your brain and actually research it for yourself. Okay. Look into it. Any verse that you have, drop them here right now. If you got something, we'll cover it. But I mean, I've went over most of this stuff already. So, maybe it doesn't matter to you. It's not even a matter of people do it. Like it's a matter that people know they can, because what that does is it takes all the fear of getting married out for a man. I would have married when I was 18 or 17 years old if I would have known this, because I wouldn't have been like waiting for this one girl. I've been like, yeah, let's get married. And then if some girl that comes along one day that I like better or as much or whatever, or checks more of the boxes, like you can just make a pragmatic decision. Be like, man, she's a good girl. We get along. I really dig her. Boom, let's get married. And then think how clean the dating pool is now. So like, I just encourage y'all to look it up, research it for yourself. Don't believe anything that I say. Be like the Bereans. It says the Bereans were more noble because they researched these things to see if what Paul said was true. Research for yourself. Don't just believe what your pastor tells you. That's weak sauce. Don't be lazy. Anything you can tell us about worshiping on the Sabbath? Good question. I just switched the Sabbath to Saturday. I'm having my Sabbath on Saturdays now instead of Sundays. And I'm definitely inching closer to Torah. I don't know. I'm researching it. I don't know a lot about Torah. I'm willing to do it. I'm becoming more and more convinced that the Old Testament and the New Testament aren't separate books. I mean, they're one continuous book, and one doesn't contradict the other. It's impossible to even think that it would. I mean, like God's not going to contradict himself, right? That's just common sense. So I'd like to be closer. I don't believe that I need to do those things for salvation. I don't think I'll ever believe that, because I believe that Jesus plus nothing equals salvation. I don't think I have to do anything, but I think that this is probably a smart way to live, and it might be the way that pleases God the most. So I'd like to continue researching it and learning more about it. And then, hey, if I got to give up shrimp and bacon, I'm willing to do it. It's more important to me to live a life that pleases God. So Austin said, "You're a fisher of men, bro." Thank you for that, Austin. I really appreciate it. That is my aspiration and my goal. I want to grow the kingdom. I want to sit, make sure there are more butts in the seats at the marriage supper of the Lamb. If it said that, like, he's already paid the price, right? So like, why not get everybody in? Right? The bill's already paid. So let's get everybody there. And I think polygyny is a way to do that too. People say, well, you shouldn't be focused on this. You should be focused on sharing the gospel because we're in the end times. Listen, I agree we're in the end times. I know that Jesus is coming back soon. And I say soon, I don't know when. I think, and I'd be shocked if he's not back in the next 10 years. Personally, that's what I believe. I mean, he's told me some things that definitely lead me to believe that I'm going to be alive to see it. Um, but I think that polygyny is a way to get more men in the kingdom, because anything that you do, if you try to tell men to do anything that's not religious or not biblical, of course, it's not going to produce good results. Think of Jesus constantly challenged the religious leaders of the day when he was walking the earth. And that was only 400 years after the law was given, but they had added all this extra shit, right? And he was always correcting them. Now it's been over 2,000 years since we got the New Testament. You don't think that we're getting a lot of stuff wrong? Of course we are. They got a lot wrong only 400 years later. Now it's been 2,000 years. So, like, yes, we're off in some areas, and this is one of them. Polygyny is one. It's not biblical. It was given to us by the Roman Catholics, and pushed on us, and it's now you're seeing the fruit of it everywhere. It's men don't want to get married. The marriage rate, the divorce rate, like we're not. It's supposed to be a high divorce rate and a high marriage rate and a low divorce rate. We have the exact opposite. Nobody's getting married, and the ones that do are getting divorced. It's a freaking mess. And then people are going to say, "Oh, it's monogamy, or this is God's will." Like, all you have to do is open your freaking eyes and see it's not working. It's a mess. Well, that's because men need to be men. Well, I don't disagree, but do you think that a man with two wives would be a little bit more masculine? You think he'd feel more like a king? Of course he would. You think the woman would feel a little bit more feminine? I think so. So you just got to use your brain. Like, I know this is a hard one because you've been soaked in this. You've been indoctrinated. I mean, it's such a mind screw. Like, when you first see it, it's like, oh my God, it's hard to accept because you grew up in America, and this is what you've been taught. But I'm telling you, you've been lied to. You've been misled. So, hey, feel free to share this if there's anything in here that I said that is helpful to you or maybe helpful to someone else. What else do I want to talk about? Join the Biblical Families Facebook group. There's a good group of believers that believe in plural marriage. They're not Mormons. They're not a cult. They're just good, God-loving people. And I'm not talking about just like go to church on Sunday Christians. These are people that really care what God thinks. They study His Word and they live their life in a way that pleases Him to the best of their abilities. And they're in plural marriages. I met these people. They're like not my half-assed, 1 foot in, 1 foot out Christian friends I used to meet on church on Sunday that really just kind of went to church because it was a nice thing to do because they could go to lunch with their friends after. Now, these are people that are really serious about their relationship with God, and they're in plural marriages. And people will say, "Oh, they're whatever, being affected and influenced by Satan," or whatever the people say. I'm like, the Pharisees said the same thing about Jesus. Oh, he's got a demon. That's the first thing that people do. And when they disagree with you on doctrine, they'll accuse you of not being saved. They'll question your salvation. What a crock of shit. Like, that's like the worst. It's the worst thing you could do to somebody. Oh, you're not even a real Christian. Like, fuck you. Like, who are you? Woe to those who call good evil and call evil good. Like, you need to repent, because that's blasphemy, because God compared Himself to a polygynist. When? Ezekiel and Jeremiah. He says, I have 2 wives, Israel and Judah, and one was adulterous. And multiple times he compared himself to a polygynist. Do you think he would do that if it was sin? Come on, dude. Use your brain. You think Jesus would compare Himself to a polygynist in the parable of the 10 virgins if polygyny was a sin? Come on. Use your brain. Anyway, get at me if you need any help with the silver. I'll send you the number if you want to know about the Patreon. Links in the description. If you want to know about the coaching, send me an email or drop me a DM. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one. If you have anything that you want me to talk about, any videos, topics to discuss, subjects, feel free to drop them. I'm always looking for new ideas for content. Yeah, that's it. All right. Peace. Talk to you all later.